Most people don't struggle with boundaries because they don't know how to say no. They struggle because in the moment, something else takes over. And if you've ever said yes when you meant no and walked away wondering why you keep doing it, today's conversation is going to give you clarity. Welcome back to the Delay the Binge podcast. I'm your host, Pam Dwyer, and today I am joined by someone I've really been looking forward to talking with because the way she approaches boundaries is just different. Dana-Skaggs brings both the clinical side and the real-life experience together in a way that actually makes sense. She's a psychotherapist with over 18 years of experience, a keynote speaker, and the host of Phoenix and Flame podcast, ranked in the top 5% globally. And she's known as, are y'all ready? The Queen of Boundaries. Dana, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate it. This is going to be a good talk.
Yes, and I'm going to tell everybody right now, it's not Dana, it's Dana.
And either way is fine with me. People say both.
Oh, all right. Well, before we jump into everything, I just want to say, I love how you take something like boundaries, which can feel heavy and even intimidating at times, and you make it feel real, relatable, and honestly, doable. I want to know about you personally. So what are you on fire for right now? What's going on?
Oh my gosh. So right now, what I'm on fire for, because I'm a serial entrepreneur, because I've got my private practice and then I did my podcasting. And then right now I'm focusing on trying to scale my business and reach more people with my message about boundaries, with my framework of the mental boardroom. And I'm trying to reach businesses. I'm trying to reach groups of people. I'm trying to reach corporations, associations, women's groups, colleges, just trying to find them so that I can connect with them and I can support their groups and so they can function much better. I guess in a way, and it's not solely this, but I have a special heart for high performers because I'm one of them. And high performers that don't know how to use boundaries are a lot like Icarus flying too close to the sun. They're going to fly one time too many, too close. And everything's going to melt away and they're going to be crispy, crunchy, and they're going to plummet down. And this is not uncommon. They burn out. They get overwhelmed. They don't know how to set healthy boundaries. And they might be a rock star for maybe 6 months, look like they're setting the world on fire, impressing everybody for 6 months, and then they plummet to the ground. Yeah. And so my heart is to try to reach these people so they can play the long game, Pam, so they can be there, so they can do what they're so good at. I've had patients in my office that were so amazing. They were smart. They were creative. They were passionate. And they ended up on FMLA seeing me as the therapist because they're having panic attacks every morning before work. Yeah. Right? They're having nausea. They're having migraine headaches. They're going to the emergency rooms. They're going to their doctor's office, eating all kinds of antacids and all kinds of things. This does not have to be the case. If you know how to practice healthy boundaries, you can do it and you can play the long game and keep doing the thing that you love versus being a hot shot for 6 months and then peace out. Right? It must be real. That's what happens.
I so relate to all of that because that's what my tendency is, setting boundaries. And it's the way I grew up in an abusive, very abusive childhood. So boundaries were tough for me as a young adult, probably about 8 years of therapy. And I owe my life to that woman. And so first of all, thank you. Thank you for what you do for those of us that struggle. But she did explain to me that these tendencies, don't just disappear. It's always going to be something you have to cope with. Once I learned how to focus just with how to cope, that's when I started turning things around. But when some people hear the word boundaries, what do you think What do you think they get wrong most often?
What I think they get wrong most often, Pam, is there's a myth that boundaries mean someone is running around screaming no at everybody.
Yeah.
And that is not the case. People also think that boundaries mean they're throwing up these cinder block walls against everybody in their life, that they're not gonna. I mean, I've had business leaders that were under the misconception that boundaries meant that if I came in and spoke to their team about boundaries, then their team would be saying, no, I'm not going to do this. No, I'm not going to do that. No, 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 I'm not going to. And that is not how it works at all. That is one of the huge myths of boundaries, is that it's cinder block walls and running around screaming no at everybody. And that is simply not the case.
Yeah. I could see where they would think that. I thought that
And
at
that's
one
one of my
time.
passions, is trying to get out there and show people that's not how it works. That's not what it means.
Oh, it's so it's so interesting because what I see a lot is that it's not just one thing pulling at people, it's work, expectations, responsibilities all at once, and checking off all the boxes, and it doesn't stay in one place. It follows them wherever they
Mhm.
go. It's just not only work, career, it's home, personal life. And that's where I see people start to feel burnt out. Not necessarily because they're doing too much, but because they're carrying things that may not even be theirs to carry. So I want to go a little deeper into something you teach, the mental boardroom strategy, because when I was listening to you talk about that, I was just amazed. I think it's wonderful. I think our listeners could really benefit from it.
Oh man, I love this. I developed it just organically throughout the years as I was teaching my patients how boundaries work. And because you had a point earlier when you were introducing the podcast, is that most of us know that we need to have better boundaries. We know that.
Mhm.
Most of us know that we need to have a limit, that we should tell ourselves no, or we should tell someone else no, so that we can do things that really matter. But we don't. And therein lies the rub. And that's why I developed this concept of a mental boardroom. It's sort of my interpretation of internal family systems. So the reason why I like to use a boardroom is because it's very clear where there's a position of
Mhm.
authority. We all
Yeah.
know in a board meeting where the
Right.
CEO is sitting, right? We all know it's at the
Yeah.
head of the table. And so when you pull this visual to your mind, you can see this long, shiny, expensive table, and then the CEO's at the head, and then there's chairs down the side. The reason why I developed this idea was to help people understand that they have parts of themselves, and I have a method called LEAD that I can get into here in just a minute to help them kind of know what to do. But they have
Wonderful.
parts of themselves that are in that mental boardroom. For example, they might have a part that is a younger part of themselves, it's something they went through when they were younger. You
Mhm.
mentioned an abusive childhood. I went through similar things. I can share that in a few moments if you would like.
I would
One
love
of the
it.
reasons why I ended up being so passionate about boundaries. I have a part of me that is a codependent,
Mm.
that is very super focused on, and it's on other people's emotions,
Mhm.
the body language, the facial expression, the movement of the eyebrow. I mean, I'm tracking it all, right? Which is one reason, great. That's one reason why I'm super good at my job, because I'm seeing everything. I may not say anything about it, but I'm tracking it all. And
Mhm.
so even though that started out from a dysfunctional need, because I'm the CEO, I have a part of myself in that mental boardroom that's like, for example, if my husband comes stomping into the living room and then stomping into the kitchen and slamming stuff around, that younger part of me that's in my boardroom, the first thought that part has is, what did I do? What did I
Yes.
do? Did I do something wrong? And that part of me starts ticking down all the things that I was supposed to do? Did I forget something? Did I say something wrong? That part of, because that's what that younger part of me experienced. That was the trauma.
Yeah.
And so that part of me is in the boardroom and I can feel it in my body. My body gets tense. My neck muscles get tense. My heart rate starts going a little faster than normal. And even though I'm sitting there watching him and he hasn't said anything's, my fault or anything like that, that part of me that's codependent automatically thinks it's about me. I did something wrong. I have to fix it. I have to figure out what's wrong. I have to make him calm down because the anger upsets that part of me because of things that I went through when I was younger. But with the mental boardroom, if you know how to do it, you can feel that part of you, but you can stay in the CEO chair and not let it take over and still be able to behave in a way that is with healthy boundaries and not get sucked into old things that triggered us from the past.
What a visual. And it really could play well with our pause. For Delay the Binge, the powerful, purposeful pause gives you a moment to clarify, do I really need to do this thing? And it's the space, where you allow yourself to reassess. And so I love it so much. I've been really looking into the neuroscience of all of it too, but which you probably know all about.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Yes.
Yes. When someone is in that moment and all those voices are showing up, telling you, or the child shows up, how do they begin to recognize which one is actually theirs? I mean, do people feel that boundary being crossed in their body? Like you said, you get all tense before they even recognize it mentally. Do you think they're not catching on?
Yes, I think that's one of the first places to start is paying attention to your body. But if we back up for just a moment, when I train people about boundaries, I start out with a yard analogy. If we could kind of just take a pause and kind of jump a track over there, because that's going to wrap back around and help people to be able to do the mental boardroom.
Okay.
So
Let's do. Yes,
if
please.
if you think about a typical suburban neighborhood, and you have houses and you have yards, and imagine fences between the yards. In your yard are your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. Those are the things that you have agency over. Those are the things that you get to change. Those are the things that you take responsibility for. Okay? Then there's a property line. And on the other side of that property line is your neighbor's thoughts, your neighbor's feelings, and what your neighbor chooses to do. Now, although we can get impacted by our neighbors, and I'll give an example of that in just a moment, we are not responsible for what our neighbor is thinking, feeling, or what our neighbor chooses to do. What most of us end up doing is we get this idea reversed. Instead of finding agency in our own thoughts, feelings, and actions, we are uber focused, like I was growing up because of my trauma. We are uber focused on the neighbor, which is anyone you're in a relationship with.
Yeah.
We are so focused and we blame ourselves. If our neighbor is upset, it's our fault. If our neighbor is mad, we have to calm them down. We feel responsible. Whatever's going on in our neighbor's yard, we feel like that's all my fault. And I have all this in like the first 4 episodes of my podcast before I started interviewing people.
Gosh.
But so if you start with that idea and then you go back to standing in the kitchen, with the example that I gave, my husband stomping in, the first thing is, if I'm thinking it, it's mine. I have a right to it. If I'm feeling it, it's mine. I have a right to it. Right?
Right.
Also, if my husband, whatever he's thinking, whatever he's feeling, is not in my yard. I did not cause it because technically his feelings are in his brain. Okay?
Right.
Which, unless I have access to his brain, I can't control his feelings or what he's thinking.
Yes.
So it starts with that. It starts with the knowledge of, yes, I'm witnessing my husband stomp into the room. I do not know what he's thinking. I do not know what he's feeling. All I can do is watch and witness and observe his behavioral actions, which seem to indicate he's mad. But that is all in his yard.
Yes.
My job is to pay attention to what's going on within myself. We have to separate those out right from the jump or we're going to get overwhelmed.
Well, yeah, and growing up in a traumatic environment, it's survival, right? Control means survival. So we make a
Yes.
beeline for the worst person in the room because we want to take over that situation to keep everyone safe. That was my tendency. But if I had the visual of the fence, that might have helped. I wouldn't have spent any of my energy on someone else's anger. I would have kept that energy for myself and what I needed to do, which at the time was survive.
I have a similar story. I understand.
Well, let's hear your story. It's all about you today. So I would love to hear your story.
We were joking earlier about it's odd being a podcast guest. It's odd for me talking about myself because I'm always the one saying, "Let's talk about you" with my clients and my patients. I was raised in a home there was a lot of great stuff, okay, in just about anybody's situation. There's nobody that's all good or all bad. And I had a lot of great things to be thankful for. Also, my mother had a few pretty significant psychiatric diagnoses.
Oh, wow.
Like she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and no one else diagnosed her with this, but I did, was borderline personality disorder. Because I've been in this business long enough and I combed through the DSM, and let me tell you something, from interacting with my mother as long as I did, she had borderline personality disorder. And for anyone in the field knows that lots of those personality disorders, they get overlooked because you have to really be around somebody for a long period of time to understand the dynamics and the manipulations that are going on, to see the personality disorder. So when you have someone who has both bipolar and borderline, that's a very toxic cocktail.
Yeah.
And it involves a lot of narcissism, a lot of attention-seeking behavior, a lot of emotional outbursts, a lot of unpredictability, a lot of manipulation. One psychologist told me she was a master manipulator. And so the whole family, in essence, was kind of wrapped around her.
Yeah.
What her mood was, what she wanted, what she did, if she was upset. And the whole entire family was all enmeshed around her. Now, if she was having one of her good spells, which could be for weeks, it'd be great, right? But in some ways that was almost worse because then, and this happened to me for decades with her, then you want to think, oh, wait, maybe I was just imagining that other stuff. And then you let your guard down because you think, oh, it's not, she was just having a bad day. That's not, all that stuff's going to happen. I was just exaggerating. That stuff's not going to happen again until it does.
Yeah.
And so that lurching back and forth and letting your guard down and then being smacked again. And, it's just, I didn't have boundaries growing up. I didn't understand them. I wasn't allowed them. And later on, when I was given, ironically by her sister, was given the seminal book on boundaries written by Drs. Henry Cloud and John Townsend, two psychologists. Man, Pam, it was like that book was like magic.
Yes.
I was pouring through those pages thinking, what?
Oh my God.
What?
Yeah.
This is possible? It was like the clouds just parted and the sun shone down, and I thought, what magic is this? And so, and then I started understanding, started practicing it myself. And then in my private practice was learning more and more about, and I would see it more and more. And I didn't ask to be called the Queen of Boundaries. That wasn't my idea. It was it was a joke. People they would say, oh, here's the Queen of Boundaries. Oh, Dana, she's the Queen of Boundaries. And they just said it so much that I'm like, well, all right, then I'll just own it. because, because I started seeing these things in other people and I wanted to help them not to have to go through what I experienced.
Yes. Yes. And I don't want to move off of this too soon, so I just want to stay here for just a second. Can you describe what it felt like at that time? Because you have fear, but then there's a pain. I mean, is
Mhm.
that what you felt at the time when she would again just turn on you when you got used to her being nice?
Mhm. There was confusion, there was sadness, there was anger, rage, pain, and then I my system started detaching,
Mhm.
emotionally detaching, and then I started feeling like I was kind of a bad person because and I remember this moment, and it might sound strange, and I don't really care. But there was a time we were in the kitchen and in a house that we were renting, and she was in one of her moods, and apparently I had done something or said something because Lord knows I wasn't perfect, and I had done something or said something that made her angry, and she was slamming frozen containers of beef into the freezer and screaming at me, and she would like to connect cuss words together like shit ass, okay? Like if you called somebody two cuss words together, it would have more zing, right? So I was a shit ass, and she was just she had the I still remember sitting there on the couch watching her across from me, and she had the freezer, which was on the top. It was like an old school freezer in the
Yeah.
freezer, and the freezer door, she'd flung it open, and she was throwing these very hard, heavy pieces of beef, like hamburger, like in baggies or something, just whipping them into the freezer, just yelling at me and calling me shit ass. And as that was happening, it was almost like if the shape of it was coming around me, and it felt like if you took like a flute that you put champagne in,
Yes.
okay, tip it upside down, okay, and it
Okay.
was like that shape was coming around me, and just I could almost audibly feel it click right in front.
Mhm.
And at that moment, and I'll never forget this, at that moment I was absolutely detached from her. I could see her standing there still in the kitchen. I could hear what she was saying, but all of my emotions were locked away.
Yes.
At that moment, something inside of me had clicked me in and protected me from all of the abuse that went along with all the words. And so that I could hear the word shit ass, but all of the connotation, all of the anger that was attached to it, it's like it
Mhm.
hit the glass and fell to the floor.
Yeah.
Didn't reach me. And so then, in answer to your question, then I start moving forward in life feeling almost kind of numb. And
Detached.
yes, I had to emotionally detach to protect myself. And there was a part of me that I was not doing that. I didn't do that consciously. It just kind of happened. But I remember the moment that it happened and that clicking in front of me that word came all the way around my body and just clicked. And
Mhm.
at that moment, she did not have access to me anymore from then on.
Yeah, that was a defensive, pattern that your brain created,
Mhm.
and what I tell a lot of people is those patterns, is what wreaks havoc in your adult life, because I did the same thing, Dana, I
Mhm.
did. I just I was kind to people, very even compassionate, but I wouldn't really let them in. I wasn't really, uh, you know, letting them love me or me love them. It was just a defense mechanism. So, but that's a
Mhm.
cool visual of the glass just shutting like a
Mhm. It
door.
did. It just snicked right closed.
Well, I'm also thinking about, how much I hated confrontation too. I just avoided it like the plague. I wanted to feel accepted and like I belonged or loved. I just craved it because I didn't have it growing up. And I saw other people getting it. So I knew I could see them being so happy And I wanted to be like them, but I just didn't. I felt at the time that I didn't have anyone that could love me like that. I would avoid conflict just trying to get them to like me.
Mm-hmm.
What you've described, it feels aligned with the pause because when that glass went around, it's just the brain protecting itself, yes?
Yes. It was a subconscious part of my mind that said no more.
Yeah. It's protecting
Mm-hmm.
you. That was the lower brain probably, right? The lower
Yes.
brain chatter. See, I have been doing my homework.
Oh, yeah, they love amygdala and hippocampus. That's a great part of our
amygdala, yes.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to remember that word.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that part of our brain is super fast and super strong because you have the neocortex, which is the frontal lobe.
Yes.
That's where most of our reasoning and our logic resides. And that's one of the things that some of my patients and clients get confused about is they're like, it doesn't make any logical sense that I'm having these feelings or that I'm having this response. I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why I'm having this emotional reaction because it doesn't make any logical sense. I'm like, no, but the part of the brain where that resides, where those feelings reside, doesn't speak logic.
Right.
Logic is not a language spoken in the amygdala, but the amygdala is super strong and super fast. And I've got an example if you want to hear it.
I would love to hear it. Yes.
Okay. Because the parts in our boardroom, the vast majority of them are emotion-based, which means we have to interact with them in a way that is other than logic. You just can't explain to a part of, well, she's your mother. She didn't intend that. It was that part. It doesn't, you might as well be going blah, 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 because it doesn't hear logic. It doesn't understand that. And so it's good to know what's going on. So if you would imagine walking on a hike, let's say you're in the woods and you're walking down a path with some dirt and some sticks and pebbles, and you're kind of walking along, enjoying the day, feeling the sun on your face. And as you're walking along, smelling the smells of the forest, in your peripheral vision, you happen to see this black serpentine shape down near your feet.
Oh.
What do you think your body is going to do in like a split second?
Tense up and
Yes. Your body's going to tense up and you are going to bolt. You're going to bolt like 5 or 6 feet away before you even have a chance to think.
Right.
Now, what happens in that moment, and I'm not sure, is this just audio or is it audio and visual?
It's audio visual.
Okay. So for those people that are audio, if you imagine, put your thumb into your palm and fold your other fingers over the top of your thumb, you created the shape of somewhat like a brain. Okay. Now, what happens in that moment when your peripheral vision has seen this black serpentine shape and your body is 5 feet, 6 feet across that path? What happens if you imagine all your fingers pop up? That means that your neocortex, where it has your reasoning and your logic, has popped offline. It is not responding, which means that thumb in there that is pressed against your palm, that is where your emotional brain resides. That's where the amygdala is in your brain. Like if you were to stick a pin in your eye and in your ear and push it in, where it would meet, that's where the amygdala resides.
Oh, that's a cool reference.
When we pop offline, the amygdala is totally in charge. Now, what happens is your body has been moved 6 feet across that path. Your heart is pounding. You're sweating. Then as your breathing begins to slow down and you take the pause, right?
Yeah.
You pause and your breathing slows down. Slowly, your neocortex comes back online. The fingers come back down, wrap back around the thumb. Your neocortex comes back online, which means now you have access to your logic and reasoning, which you didn't a moment ago. Now you slowly turn your head to the side and glance over there where that black serpentine shape was, and you notice, oh my goodness, it's just a stick. There's no reason to be upset. There's no reason to jump 6 feet across this path and have my heart pounding out of my throat. But do you see what happened in that moment? Do you see what is stronger?
That's what we teach it in Delay the Binge, is how to bring that frontal cortex back online. There are things you can do to prevent doing the things that will ultimately hurt you.
Yep.
And it's short term, right? The lower brain, whatever solutions it's giving you is usually short term.
Well, it's a trauma response. We typically think of fight or flight.
Yes.
We get thrust into fight or flight when our body senses something that feels like danger. Then we get thrust, and we think about fight or flight, but there's also freeze and fawn. So fight or flight is, running or fighting. And think about the animal kingdom. They're either going to have to fight it out to stay alive, or they're going to hightail it and run away from the bear or the cougar or whatever it is. You're going to get out of there, or you're going to fight. And so you have those two responses. And interestingly enough, before I go into fawn and freeze, when our system decides that we're going to fight, lots of times you'll notice your hands will start clenching and your jaw will start clenching. Because when people fight, think about it again with toddlers or with the animal kingdom, you bite. When you're trying to fight, you're grabbing with your fingers, you're biting. And so the parts of your body that get that adrenaline, that energy, are your hands. And you'll notice this with clients and with patients whenever they're describing a trauma and their body wanted to fight, you'll see the temporomandibular joint, that muscle there in the jaw, and that crook of the jaw you'll see it tense up and constrict in their jaw because they're wanting to bite. And but conversely, if the body wants to run, you'll notice sometimes that the leg muscles will start twitching, particularly in the thighs. You'll feel the twitchy feelings in your thighs, and because your body has dumped the adrenaline down there so that you can run. And so those are things that you feel in your body. And then
Isn't the body an incredible machine?
Oh my gosh.
It blows my mind, because if you let it, it can help you have a strong, healthy life. But if you listen to it.
Yes.
Well, what if someone listening right now, I always think of my listeners, because what if they're saying, I don't even know what my boundaries are anymore? So where do they begin? How do they start?
Okay. Well, two things. One, always start with the yard concept.
Yeah.
Your thought, if it's your thought, if it's your feeling, if it's your action, that belongs to you. That means you get to change that. That means you own that. Okay? So even if your neighbor does not agree with you, let's say you have an opinion about something. If your neighbor, and I can use an example. Let's say people are having a discussion about politics. Okay? That brings up some interesting conflict within people. So you could be expressing your opinion respectfully, because that's on you to do. You're expressing your opinion. That's your action. You're responsible for that. So you're responsible for doing it in a respectful way. Screaming and hollering at somebody is your action. And that's your responsibility that's not okay to do. But also if you're expressing your opinion and your neighbor doesn't like it, okay. I know that the let them theory, right? That's a boundary statement.
Yes.
Okay, let them. They don't like your opinion, okay. And they don't have to. They have a right to their own opinion. So when you're starting out trying to figure out how do boundaries work, is if it's your thought, if it's your feeling, if it's your action, that's your agency. That's what you get to own and change, and also what you need to take responsibility for. Don't be blaming somebody else for something you are doing. That's your action. And likewise, don't allow someone else to blame you for something they are feeling, for something they are doing, because that's in their yard. A great example of this, and we say this all the time, but I have to bring it up. She made me mad.
Yeah.
Right? She made me mad. We say that all the time, and I just most of the time I just let it go.
But she started it.
She started it, and she might have. But whatever she started, but then whatever you did, you own. It's kind of irrelevant who started it, because you chose to engage. when if we engage, that's what we get to take responsibility for.
Yeah.
So if someone else started something, let's say someone said something that we didn't like, they brought up some opinion or whatever. If you, right from the beginning, you're looking at it from a boundary standpoint, you're like, okay, I don't like that opinion. They were rude. They had a nasty, sarcastic tone. They were disrespectful, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they were all of that, but that's on them. That has nothing to do with me.
Right.
Even if they're talking to me, even if they're talking about me, it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So it's beginning to try to understand these concepts of what belongs to me, what can I own, what can I change, and what does not. Because when we understand it, it doesn't matter if the other person understands it or not, as long as we understand it. So if someone's trying to accuse us, they're all angry. Well, you did this and that, and I'm feeling this kind of way, or someone's holding a grudge.
Yeah.
If we have apologized for something that we did and we owned it, and I'm a firm believer in observing our behavior, not judging it. We don't need to what I call jump in the shame shower. That's not going to do any good. You know,
I like that.
let's just observe our behavior. Don't judge it. That way, if we just observe it and look at it from a point of curiosity, then we say, well, it's curious that I did this or I said this. I wonder why, right?
Yes.
That's odd. And then it's like, well, I probably shouldn't have done that. That was pretty hateful. And it's like, yeah, it was. Okay. I'm not judging it. I'm just observing. Yeah, it was hateful. So then I'm going to pick that up out of my yard. I'm going to walk across my lawn. I'm going to lean it up against the fence, and I'm going to say to my neighbor, hey, neighbor, I said some things to you yesterday that were pretty terrible. I was in a very bad mood, and I was obnoxious. I yelled at you, and I called you names, and I'm so sorry. I should not have done that, but I did because I'm human and I make mistakes. But I'm owning that, and I'm apologizing for it. Here's the thing. Once you've done that, and the fence line is pressing into your abdomen, there's no more that you can do.
Right.
How they receive, or if they receive your apology, is in their yard. If they decide to accept your apology, or if they decide to hold a grudge for 15 years, that's in their yard. You cannot control those things.
Exactly. And burnout is everywhere. It's the big topic now. And a lot of people think that it's about doing too much, right? But it's really more about carrying things that were never theirs to begin with. So if they keep it in their yard, and if they need to speak to the neighbor, just like you said, just keep it over there, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And it's both. They are carrying too much because they're carrying things that don't belong to them. They are carrying too much. But the reason is they're carrying half. Like if you imagine going out into your yard and you have to keep up with it. You got to mow it. You got to rake it. You got to keep up with your flowers. You got to weed it. You got to put mulch out there. You got to keep up with stuff, right? You got to paint your fence, all kinds of shit you got to do out there. Now, let's say you're out there taking care of all the things in your yard that you have to keep up with. And also, you're over there mowing your neighbor's yard every week. You're over there trying to trim your neighbor's bushes every week. You're over there washing your neighbor's car. You're over there painting your neighbor's shutters and keeping up with everything in your yard. How's that going to work out?
It is so true. And in the corporate world, or really any workplace, do you notice, and this is a good question for you, do you notice that the humanness of us, if there is a person that says they're going to do everything, and no matter what you throw at them, they take it onto their plate because they don't want to say no, right? And so they just keep taking it and taking it. I am that person, and, I've always worked my job just like it was my company. That's the type of worker, that's my work ethic. I take it on. And so it does burn you out. I have burnt out doing that. But why doesn't the other person say to themselves, wow, Pam's going to take whatever I throw at her. I better ease off a little bit. I think that's a bit much.
Well, they probably have more on their plates. They're trying to dump stuff off. And secondly, we train people what to expect from us. So in essence, in the example that you're giving, you have trained this coworker that if they've got more on their plate than they can handle, or they really want to leave early and go, grab a beer with their buds down at the local bar, then they're going to dump that shit on you and not care.
Right.
And so if you keep accepting it, then you're training them that they can do it. Because have you ever noticed that the bully in the playground, right, doesn't bully everyone equally?
Correct.
Have you ever noticed that?
I do. I have noticed that. Yes.
The bully identifies certain other people to bully, zeroes in on those ones, and those are the ones that get bullied. The bully does not bully everyone equally in the whole class. So I consider it good news that we train people how to treat us. That means initially we might not like that because we want to blame the other person. We want to say they're mean, they're hateful, they're not very thoughtful, putting all that stuff on me. And that's not, that's true. That's not untrue. But we can't do anything about that. But the point is, there's a pattern. If we've been around somebody for a while, this is not somebody you met last week, right?
Right.
If you've known them for a while and they keep dumping this stuff on you, then that means you've trained them that they can.
Oh, I just love that so much, because a lot of people, they feel like they're just holding on to everything because they're trying not to drop it. They're trying not to fall apart. They're trying to be the best that they can be.
Well, and so they better have boundaries, because here's the thing. You got to play this out. People get to the middle of the book and they stop. If you play these scenarios out, these individuals are going to end up in the ER. They're going to end up on FMLA. They're going to be the quiet quitters. Everybody's going to say I'm this fictional Mary allows this to happen. And she's trying to be, Sally Sunshine to everybody. She's trying to do everything everybody wants her to do. She wants to be everybody's best friend. Oh, she can't say no to anybody. Everybody's got to like her, right? So she's not saying no to anybody. She's taking everything on. Everybody thinks Mary's the bee's knees, right? Until they come into work Monday and Mary's desk is empty. All of her pictures are gone. All of her stuff is gone. And everyone starts talking to one another in the hallway. Where's Mary? Have you seen Mary? I don't know. Have you seen Mary? Somebody said she quit. What do you mean she quit? She was just here Friday. Yeah, she's gone. All of her stuff is gone. They're called quiet quitters. They don't say anything about it to anybody. They don't tell their boss about it. They don't tell their coworkers about it, but they take it all up to their eyeballs until they feel like they're drowning, and they just peace out. The problem, Pam, with the quiet quitters is that they're going to go to the next job and they're going to start it all over again because they don't know how to practice healthy boundaries. And so they're going to go and they think they've escaped it. No, they haven't, because it's inside. It kind of reminds me, this is kind of a funny aside. Did you ever see the movie? I think it was Friday the 13th with, it was a scene.
I've seen all the versions.
Okay. There was a scene where there's a babysitter sitting inside a house. And she gets this crazy call from this scary person. And then and this was back in the day when she had like telephones, not cell phones.
Yes.
And then she calls the police and she says, "Oh my gosh, I just got this crazy call. Would you please trace it and tell me where it's coming from?" Because she's babysitting a child, right? So then the police call her back and they say, "Get out. The caller is coming from inside the house."
Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember that.
It
still gives me goosebumps.
The hairs stand up on your arms, right? You're like, oh crap. For the quiet quitters, I'm saying the caller is coming from inside the house. The issue is inside of them. It's their lack of understanding of how to go out into the world and have your wonderful, amazing, creative, intelligent ability, but you have to set boundaries because there are actually, Pam, two things happen. One, you have people that for different reasons, they will take advantage of you. They're going to take advantage of you, and let's just say it, they're lazy. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say the word. They're lazy. They don't want to do the work, but they want to get credit for it, and they want you to do it. So they can scoop it off your desk the next day and act like they did it when they didn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Those people are out there. So that's one thing. All right. So it's just like you've got to be able to set these boundaries, because that's one individual that's going to happen to you. But here's the other thing. People that are high performers, they attract projects and coworkers like moths to light. Okay? When
Yes.
you are good at what you do, and I've experienced this, you have probably experienced this.
Yes.
When you are a rock star at work, when you are super at what you do, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're creative, you're passionate, people are drawn to you. They want you to be on their project. They want you to be the one taking over their project, because they realize all the wonderfulness you're going to bring to their project. So these people are coming to you. They see what you're doing on the projects that you're currently working on. They see what your track record is. They're like, oh my gosh, we need her on our project. So they come. They say, hey, please join our team. We need you.
Mm-hmm.
The thing of it is, you can be like, that project sounds amazing, and I want to do that so bad. I can taste it. But if you don't know how to say, you know what? I love what you're doing. Please contact me in about 4 weeks. I have some other projects that I'm working on right now that I'm already committed to, and I want to give them my best. And I don't have more time right now. But you know what? Things are going to change for me in about 4 weeks. I'm going to finish one of these projects, and it's going to be amazing. And then I'm going to have more space for you. So connect with me. If you still need me in 4 weeks, look me up. And I guarantee you, if you're a high performer and you're as good as you think you are, they'll wait.
Yes.
Because they would rather wait another week or two for you than get some half-asser on, and we know, okay, the half-asser, get the half-asser on the, and all they're going to do is make that project adequate. Is there a worse word to attach to a project than adequate? All right.
Mediocre.
Mediocre, right? So the thing of it is, if you are a high performer, you have to gauge yourself, protect yourself against those two types, against the one who's going to take advantage of you, and also the people that want you on their teams, and you want to do it. But if you're, that's why I'm trying to help people play the long game. If you want to stay at that company, or you say it's your own company, or you work for another company, if you love it there and you want to stay there for a long time, I'm teaching people how to play the long game.
Yes.
Not be the hot shot for 4 months and then be the quiet quitter. That's not going to help anybody. That actually costs an intermediate company.
That's why shame and guilt is running rampant.
Oh my gosh. There's so much to say.
Oh, I know. I love this conversation. I guess so what you're saying is you need to listen to yourself, instead of others. But I saw this video the other day, and what you were saying made me think of it. And the lady on the video said, if you're a high achiever, or, you 120% is what you always give, then it's important that you surround yourself with people that love you and know this of you and can hold you accountable, to remind you, I know your tendency, Pam, is to give 120%, so you don't need to take on this additional project. It's just my opinion. But I don't know. What do you think about that? Surrounding yourself with people that know you well enough and care about you, to help you with that.
I think that is a wonderful idea, and it's a good thing to do. Also, how do I want to put this? We do need to have our posse, right? We need to have our posse that's going to speak truth to us.
Yes.
And if you have a strong personality, then a lot of people aren't going to speak truth to you.
Yeah.
And I have a strong personality, so I know this, right? Because you need your posse, people that are going to say, dude, you need to dial it back, because you might not be recognizing it, and they can see the signs in you. So on the one hand, having your posse is absolutely gold. Gold, right? And also, we need to realize that it's not their responsibility to continuously rein us in. It's our job.
Right. Then this codependency, right? Then you rely on them to keep you.
And it's not their job.
It's not their job.
It's
a lot for
lovely
them
to
deal
have
with.
them. Yes. I mean,
Yes.
when you have a posse, sometimes you're holding someone else accountable. Sometimes they're holding you accountable. It's like quid pro quo. And you love that about the group, and you need the group. And also, at the end of the day, we are responsible for our own choices and our own actions.
Mm-hmm.
And to recognize that in ourselves, in our own life.
And how do you suggest people start recognizing who is actually, their posse, who's safe in their life,
Mm-hmm. This is a great question, Pam. I love it.
Because it involves boundaries, That's where the boundaries come in.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Miss
and
Coon.
part of boundaries is vetting people. Vetting for safe people. And actually, Doctors Henry Cloud and John Townsend wrote a book called Safe People as an extension of their boundaries book, because we're responsible for vetting people. Are they safe in my life?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna answer that question, but I'm also going to give you an analogy. So
Okay.
imagine a cell in your body, and a cellular membrane. Generally, most cellular membranes have two jobs. One job is to push toxins out of the cell. Like, think of a semi-permeable membrane.
Right.
To push toxins out of the cell, and then also to pull nutrients into the cell. Twofold. If you think of boundaries in that way, we are responsible for pushing toxins out and for pulling nutrients in. So the safe people, that's making sure that you don't have someone toxic in your life. And how do you tell someone like that? Let me give you some examples. If you try to be honest with someone and they criticize you, that's not a good sign. If you try to tell them about what's going on in your life, and after about 30 seconds, they have turned the whole conversation around about making it about them,
Yes.
that is not a good sign. And
No.
I actually I noticed this so much, I did an impromptu casual experiment where I would engage random people that I knew in conversations. I would bring up something that had happened to me, and I would say, oh my gosh, I'm so upset about this, and I want to talk to you about it. And then I would start talking, and I would see how long would it take them until they're talking about themselves.
A test.
How long do you think it was?
Probably seconds.
About 1 to 2 minutes max.
Oh, okay.
Now, it's one
I've
thing.
talked to people where it turns quickly.
Because those are people that have narcissistic tendencies. Okay, I'm not talking about diagnostic.
Yeah.
But narcissism just basically means self-focused.
Yeah.
Okay, we're thinking about ourselves, and so that's a key thing when you're talking to people. Or do you have someone in your life who you can go to with your experience of that day? Let's say something happened to you at work and you really need to process it. You're not really sure what you think about it. You're kind of unclear. You want some wise counsel from someone. Are they listening to you? Are the comments that they're making back to you, do they indicate that they actually listened to what you said? Or are they making comments that indicated they really weren't listening? They were just waiting for your lips to stop flapping. Right? So they could start talking. And usually it's about themselves.
Yes.
And I don't mind someone bringing up like a brief example to show me that they went through something similar, so I would have some trust that they know what they're talking about. That's fine, but make it brief. All right? Then let's get back to what I'm talking about. Right? But they don't do that. Usually they just gallivant off. And about that time, in my mind, they've gone into the bad category. Okay? You've moved over to the bad category. I'm not going to bring you anything anymore so when you're talking about your posse and how to set those boundaries and how do you know, these are some qualities. Also, if you're around someone and let's say, here's an example. Let's say you're around somebody and they want to go to this new Thai restaurant in town,
Okay.
but you absolutely loathe Thai food. If you feel nervous saying, I really don't want to go to that restaurant. Is there another one we can like both enjoy? Maybe like the Italian restaurant or the Mexican restaurant. I don't do well with Thai. I don't like Thai. If you feel uncomfortable saying that's a version of no, right? Everything those words that I just gave you was a version of no.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a relationship with someone and you feel uncomfortable saying no, or anytime you say no, you're overridden, this is a problem.
And I've known lots of people like that where it feels uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
because I know what they're going to do, or I know how they're going to react to that. And so I want to protect myself, so I don't say it. We go to the Thai restaurant. That was the before Pam. That was the broken Pam.
We have that, but that broken, talking about the boardroom, that broken part is in your boardroom. Like I have multiple parts like that are in my boardroom. And so when we're in situations with people and there might be, for example, a part of us might say, we have to go along. That broken younger part, that hurting part might be in the boardroom saying to you, well, we've got to go along with whatever they say, because if we don't, they might not like us. And then they're going to reject us, and then we're going to be abandoned, and then we're going to be all alone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's just be brutally honest. That's what those parts say.
Yeah.
The thing of it is, this is a comment that I remember from being in that initial boundaries book was, if you feel like someone is going to leave you for saying no, then you've actually already been left a long time ago in every way but physically.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, wow. I never forgot that particular phrasing. And that, again, credit to Doctors Henry Cloud and John Townsend. I don't want to take, they said that. And I thought that was gold, because that's what people, and I've heard people say that to me in my office. Okay, well, but Dana, if I don't go along, if I don't do what they want me to do, then they're going to criticize me. Then they're going to reject me, and then they won't be my friend anymore, which is abandonment. Okay, that feels like abandonment. And I'm like, okay, that's true. I can't tell you that's not going to happen. We both know it probably is. But here's what's also true. If you're in a relationship with someone and you can't ever say no, you can't ever go against what they want, then they've actually already left you a long time ago in every way but physically. You are not represented in that relationship. It's just them.
Mm-hmm. There's truth to that. And I met this woman once, and she teaches listening as a skill. And that really made me think, a lot of people don't know how to listen. I'm a retired youth minister. And so parents don't really know how to listen to their teens. I mean, they don't give them a voice, right? And so I would always say to the parent, I said, you have to give them a voice. And what that means is you must listen to what they are saying. And maybe their views or thoughts are not the same as yours anymore. Parents don't like to hear that.
No. No, they don't.
I've been in some doozy conversations. But
I
anyway.
bet you have, Pam. Lord. Woo.
Ooh, Lordy. Yeah. But anyway, so I love this so much. So at what point do you think you can stop being the person that overgives and actually starts looking inward and becoming? That's my most favorite word in the world, is becoming.
I love it.
And it's, but becoming someone who protects their energy. At what point? I guess when they've just been so exhausted. And, we talk a lot about quiet depletion in women because we just take it on. We keep taking it on the outside. We appear perfectly normal and successful and thriving. And, in corporate positions, in the C-suite, they have quiet depletion big time. Mm-hmm. But over time, you see, it will catch up to them in one way or another. Like mine was food, right? My release was food, and before I knew it, I weighed over 300 pounds. But you don't really acknowledge it, or you're not aware. So I guess, but when I started getting sick is when that was the point for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess everyone just has to go keep going over their boundaries over and over and over until something happens that causes them to notice, wow, all these issues with all these different people, the only common factor is me.
Yes, and you brought up a point earlier that I thought was really good as well, is that we are one human and we vacillate. We go back and forth between home and work, home and work.
Yes.
And the majority of people, especially women, they have like people at schools, like their children's schools, that are asking them to participate in, be over committees, to head committees like the fall festival committee, or be on the PTA, or be a room mom. And then you have places at church, the church is wanting them to, will you oversee the making the soups for Wednesday night, or will you teach this class or whatever? And then you have recreational things, and then you have work, and we're not compartmentalized. We're not like a robot that somebody unplugs us at the end of the workday, and somebody just like scoots us into the closet and unplugs us and pulls us out the next morning when the workday starts. That's not how that works. We go home, and that's why I'm so passionate about this, because the work life, the work experience impacts how we are when we get home. And how we impact when we're at home, whether we're volunteering at school or at church, or how we are with our family at home, those experiences impact how we are at work. And you mentioned shame and guilt, and those kind of swim around like in murky waters, like where you can see the water moving, but something's in there, but you don't know what it is. It's shame and guilt, right? That's what's swimming under there in the dark, icky murk. And it swims around and it depletes us of our energy. It depletes us at home and it depletes us at work. So it's learning how to be aware of how you feel and setting small boundaries. Like, let's go, the example that we were talking about earlier was someone who is, lazy at work and wants to take advantage. Let's say that for 3 months now, they've dumped a whole pile of stuff on your desk about 15 minutes before the end of the day, and they want you to do it all. And so you're at work an hour and a half overtime. You miss supper with your family because you're working, doing all this stuff that this other person expects to be done when they get to work at 9 o'clock the next morning, right? And you do this for 3 months. Well, you're furious. You're upset. You're mad. You're angry. Your relationships are falling apart. You're not happy. You're feeling bitter. You're feeling resentment. You're not talking anymore. You're not doing fun things anymore. You're shutting down.
Right.
Well, I love the fact that you talk about the pause, because you can take a pause, recognize what's going on, and take a baby step. Because I'm telling you right now, Pam, someone that has done that for like the office bully and has done that for 3 months, if you suggest to them that they all of a sudden just stop doing it, they're going to freak out.
Yes.
Okay? Let's be brutally honest about that. Nobody's suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is, like what you said a few moments ago, it's the slow... What was the phrasing that you used? It was basically going, but going slow. Like...
small incremental steps. That's what I always say.
So going back to the office, and the next time that the let's say it's a guy and he drops his stuff on your desk, and he does that because you've trained him to, by the way. Okay.
Yes.
Let's be honest about that. So he drops his stuff on unceremoniously, plops it on the edge of your desk, and he gets ready to head off and have beer with his buddies. You can say, let's say his name's Dan. So, Dan, I'm happy to do about half of this for the next week, and then you need to find someone else. So you're not going to do the whole thing. You say, I'm happy to do half of it.
Yeah.
So the other half you can take back, and I'll do this half for the next week. So you'd have a week to figure out who else you want to target in this office to bully? Because it ain't going to be damn me. That's who it's not. So you do it in slow baby steps, because we
Yes.
had to be honest, though, we have to have grace, because we trained, like, say, if I did this, I would have trained Dan to take advantage of me. I trained him to do that.
Yeah.
So when I start shifting my gears and I start changing my boundaries, he's going to be shocked.
Yeah.
He's not going to be very happy with me. And we have to say that's understandable, because I've made his life really easy for the past 3 months. So when I start changing my boundaries, I have to have grace for him.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because I trained him that I would do it. So when we
Yep.
start shifting our boundaries, we have grace for the other person. That's why we do it in baby steps, so they have a chance to adjust to our new boundaries.
Exactly. And it's not, and a lot of times it's how you say it to them.
Mhm.
You know, it shouldn't be done in anger
No.
or defiance. You know, you can diplomatically
Yeah,
start changing
100%.
things in small steps. And
But you have to be direct.
yes, you
Because
can't
if I were to
sugarcoat.
say, like, oh, well, would it be okay with you, Dan, if maybe I did like half? Would it be okay with you if maybe I just did half of this? And he would say, no, I need it all done by 9 o'clock. What are you thinking? And then he's walking down the hallway. You don't do it like that. You're
Nope.
respectful and you're nice, right? But you're
Mhm.
direct. You say, Dan, I'm happy to do half of this for the next week. And then you need to find someone else to do it.
Yeah.
This is not what you don't say, what's hanging in the air is, this is not a request. I'm not asking your permission. This is going to happen. This is what I'm going to do, because he can't make you do it.
Right. And if you don't pose a question, he doesn't get to answer.
There is no question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you say it nicely, you say it respectfully, but you say it in a direct way, and you just do it in baby steps, so you feel like it's something that you can do.
Yes. So much. You know, this reminds me of my podcast used to be The Plus One Theory. And the plus one theory is not a dating situation. That's what people think. But it's doing your best plus one more. You know, and I came up with that name in 8th grade. But anyway, it's helped me. It's helped me raise my kids. They had it drilled into their heads. But plus one means doing your best plus one more in kindness. With kindness, you know, compassion. But don't let people run over you.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's what I would tell my son when he had bullies happening. I'd just say, you're not allowed to fight, son, but don't let them hurt you.
Yeah. Well, and I love the plus one, if you think about a work scenario or even any kind of scenario where you do your best and you can do one small thing extra.
Yes.
As long as you limit it to the one, then you can do that for on and on and on and on and on. That's the long game right there. It's the people that go plus 25.
Yes. And I
You
know
know?
people like that.
Those
Yeah.
are the ones that they look fantastic and everybody loves them for about 6 months until they're in the ER and then they quit.
Yes.
Right? I'm speaking the truth.
It is the truth. I mean, my own daughter, she's 30 now, but I used to be so terrible about overextending myself by doing for others. And this is when I was in ministry. I mean, you get caught up in that real easy. That's why youth ministers burn out.
Yeah.
But I was just going and blowing and trying to save everybody. And finally she came up to me and she said, Mom, I'm just going to be frank with you. If you keep going at this rate, I'm afraid you're going to end up in the hospital or worse.
Mhm.
I need my mom. Please stop giving so selfishly.
I love
Selflessly.
that giving. Well, and to say giving selfishly too, because you were doing that, it was meeting a need for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It just was a rude awakening for me to have my daughter plead with me to stop giving all of me away.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
she's
valuable
wise.
conversation.
Yes. Speaking of, before we wrap up, I really would love for you to share with our listeners where they can find you, connect with you, or learn more about your work?
Sure. Yeah. They can go to dana-skaggs, dana-skaggs.com. All the stuff is there. You can get a hold of me for coaching, or I have courses. You can book me to speak if you have a group and you want me to come speak to your group and kind of bring in. And my keynote has a lot of personal stories that are funny. And, I like to laugh and be real. If we can't be real, what's the point of it? Right. And if somebody wants to take a quiz, if they're like, well, do I have boundary issues? I think maybe I do, but I'm not sure. You can go to dana-skaggs.com/quiz, and you get to take this free quiz that I think is about 10 questions on there. And then you get feedback about where you stand with your boundary setting and how that's impacting you, and to try to give you a little bit of guidance and some help. Yeah.
Okay, so perfect. We'll make sure that all of that is in the show notes as usual. So it's easy for everyone to find and connect with you. And for those of you listening today, if this conversation resonated with you and you want to go a little deeper into this work, I share more of these ideas throughout the week in my newsletters. So we will feature Dana when her episode airs. We're going to feature her all over the place. And so I'm sure you can learn more, by reading these newsletters. So Tuesday is the short story, Wednesday is Inside the Pause, and Thursday is Behind the Mic, where we break down this conversation. And you can find all of that in the show notes as well. Just be sure to sign up and get them delivered straight to your inbox. And of course, if something in this episode stood out to you and someone came to mind while you were listening, I do that a lot too.
Yes.
Don't keep it to yourself. Copy the link, send it to them, share it. Because these are the kinds of conversations that help people feel seen and start to shift something in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so just remember, you don't have to fix everything all at once. Like Dana said, just small steps. You can pause long enough to notice what's happening and choose what's actually serving you. And that's how you take your power back, one moment at a time. Dana, thank you for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. This was wonderful. Thanks.
Yes. And I'll see you all next week.